Dear students, in today's geography lesson, we'll begin chapter 1, Economic Geography, Subject Matter and Resource. This lesson is from Class 10 Social Science syllabus and suitable for both SEBA and CBSE students studying in English medium. We'll explore how geography connects with economic activities and how resources shape the way we live. So get your notebooks ready. Let's begin. Before we start, here are the key points you will learn in this chapter. First, we'll understand the definition of economic geography, its subject matter, scope, and branches. Then, we'll explore the meaning, importance, and classification of resources. You will also learn about the various uses of resources in our daily lives. And finally, we'll study resource conservation, why it's important, how it's done, and the role of national and international organizations. So, let's begin with the first topic. What exactly is economic geography? Our first topic is definition and subject matter of economic geography. In this section, we'll understand what economic geography means and how it helps us study the relationship between people, resources, and the environment. So, let's explore how geography connects to the way we live, work, and grow economies. Geography is broadly divided into two main branches, physical geography and human geography. From human geography, we get one of its most important branches, economic geography. Economic geography focuses on how people produce, distribute, use, and exchange resources across different places and time periods. Just like natural environments vary from place to place, human-made environments also differ from region to region, shaped by how people interact with their surroundings. The surface of the earth is not the same everywhere. Different regions have different geological structures, landforms, climates, and soil types. This is called the diversity of the natural environment. Some areas have mountains while others are flat plains. Coastal regions are different from inland areas, and climates differ from hot to cold or dry to humid. Along with this, the availability of resources like forest, water, vegetation, and minerals also differs from place to place. Some areas face floods or erosion, while others are rich in vegetation and fertile land. Because of these differences, the way humans interact with nature also changes. What kind of land and resources are available affects how people live and what work they do. For example, fertile soil leads to farming. Coastal areas support fishing and trade. Minerals give rise to industries, and grasslands are ideal for livestock rearing. In this way, each region develops unique economic activities based on its environment. Since both natural and human-made environments differ from place to place, people in different regions have different lifestyles, types of work, and ways of using resources. For example, while one area may be known for farming, another may be famous for trade or industries. Because of this diversity, no single region can meet all its needs alone. That's why regions depend on one another for goods, services, and resources, creating economic interdependence around the world. All of these aspects are studied in economic geography, which helps us to understand. The first is, we can say, how people produce, distribute, and use resources. The second is how economic activities differ by location and time. And the third one, we can say, how regions are connected through resources and human activity. Let's move on to our next topic, the scope of economic geography and its branches. In this section, we'll explore the main questions that economic geography tries to answer and the different areas or branches it covers, like agriculture, industries, resources, transport, and more. Let's dive in and discover how wide and important this subject really is. The scope of economic geography is mainly based on five key questions. First, where is the economic activity located? Second is, what are the characteristics of economic activity? Third, to what other phenomena is the economic activity related? fourth, we can say why is the economic activity located where it is. And the fifth, we can say would it not be better if located elsewhere. Here, the first three questions are associated with traditional economic geography, while the last two have laid the foundation of modern economic geography. According to George Chisholm, the father of modern economic geography, the main objective of economic geography is determination of the economic development trend and direction of a place. That might be a question that according to George Chisholm, what is the main objective of economic geography? And as stated by C.F. Jones and G.G. Durkenwald, economic geography basically studies the relationship between humans' productive activities and environmental conditions. There are four types of economic activities or occupations, and the first one is called primary occupation. These are activities where people directly collect resources from nature. Some common examples include agriculture or farming, fishing, collecting forest products, mining and extraction of minerals. These are the most basic and essential types of work, and they mainly depend on natural resources for survival and livelihood. Next, we have the secondary occupation. These activities involve processing or transforming raw materials collected from nature into useful products using technology. Some examples are manufacturing in factories, construction work like buildings and roads, and one more we can say repairing and assembling machines or tools. These activities add value to natural resources and help create finished goods that we use every day. Now, let's look at the third type of economic activity, which is called tertiary occupation. These are service-based activities that help deliver the goods produced in primary and secondary occupations to help the people who need them, the consumers. Here are some examples: transport and communication, marketing and advertising, wholesale and retail trade like shops, tourism and hospitality services. These services connect producers and consumers and help the economy run smoothly by supporting the flow of goods and information. The fourth type of economic activity is called the quaternary occupation. These are knowledge-based and support services that help improve the efficiency of both secondary and tertiary activities. Examples are banking and financial services, mass media and advertising, administration and management, and the last we can say education and research. These occupations require skilled professionals and they play a key role in planning, innovation, and development in modern economies. Economic geography is a vast discipline and it can be studied using several different approaches. Some of the important ones include regional approach, topical or commodity approach, behavioral approach, principal approach, system analysis approach, and the last we can say institutional approach. In today's time, advanced tools like quantitative techniques, GIS, which stands for Geographical Information System, and theory models are also widely used. That's why, in many cases, a problem-solving approach is followed in applied economic geography to better understand and address real-world issues. Now let's explore the major branches of economic geography and what each of them studies. First is agricultural geography. This branch focuses on agricultural activity. It studies the types of agriculture, how crops are produced and distributed, and even includes theories, marketing and export-import of agricultural goods. Second is industrial geography. It deals with industries, how they are established, the types and locations of industries, and how industrial goods are produced and marketed. Third is geography of resources. This branch studies types of resources, where they are found, how they are explored and produced, and how resources are linked with development, conservation, and management. Let's look at few more important branches of economic geography. Transport geography. This studies types of transport systems, how transport helps in the movement of goods and people, and its role in economic development, including industry and agriculture. Geography of marketing. It covers the need for markets, the factors behind establishing them, and how markets are distributed, along with related theories. Next, geography of planning and development. This branch focuses on economic development, planning strategies, and sustainable development, especially at the regional level and resource based development processes. The last is geography of tourism. It deals with tourism, including its growth, types, and how tourism systems are developed and planned. We have now learned about the branches of economic geography. Let's move on to a new and very important section, and that is meaning and importance of resource. In this part, we will understand what exactly a resource is, why it matters in human life, and how it plays a major role in economic development. Now let's see what are resources. All the materials essential for human living are known as resources. Natural resources are used by humans through their energy, knowledge, intelligence, and skills. According to the famous economist Zimmerman, any material becomes a resource only if it has two properties: functionality and utility. This help bring about human welfare and socio-economic development. Resources are created through interaction between nature, humans, and culture, including science and technology. Humans act in two ways: producers and consumers. Producers, they create and modify resources, and for consumers, they use resources to meet their needs. Humans also create man made resources like roads, schools, technology, and industries. And remember, humans themselves are very important resource too. Thanks to their skills, knowledge, and creativity, we call this human resource. Now, let's take a quick look at the three main types of resources with the help of these visuals. First, we have natural resources like trees, water, sunlight, coal, minerals, and wind energy. These are gifts of nature and form the base of all human activities. Next, man-made resources such as bricks, books, clothes, cars, bridges, and furniture. These are created by humans using natural resources and technology. And finally, human resource, the most valuable of all. People use their knowledge, creativity, and skills to manage, improve, and develop all other resources. That's why humans are called human resource. Resources are dynamic, a material that may be useless or even harmful today, but it can become valuable in the future thanks to human knowledge and technology. Neutral stuff. These are materials that are neither useful nor harmful. For example, before their use was discovered, coal and mineral oil were considered neutral. Resistance. These are materials or phenomena that are harmful to humans. For example, infertile soil or flood-prone areas like the Damodar River before dam construction. Now let's understand resource versus wealth. Wealth has market value, is limited in supply, and can be exchanged like land, houses, machines, or company shares. But not all useful things are wealth, like air, sunlight, rivers, or education are valuable but not exchangeable, so they are not considered wealth. The key point to remember is all wealth is resource, but not all resources are wealth. Some things like poison or pesticides may have value, but they are not resources because they are harmful. We now move on to the next important section: classification and use of resources. In this part, we will learn how resources are grouped into different categories based on their origin, availability, and uses. We'll also explore how these resources are used in our daily life and in economic activities. Let's now understand how resources are classified. Resources can be grouped in different ways based on various criteria. Based on process of origin, resources are classified into three parts. natural resources, man-made resources, and human resources. Again, based on structure, resources are again classified into two parts, biotic resources and abiotic resources. And based on availability or durability, resources are divided into two categories, and they are renewable resources and non-renewable resources. And based on ownership, resources are divided into three categories. Those are individual resources, national resources, and international resources. This classification helps us understand how different resources are used, managed, and conserved. Let's now learn about the classification of resources based on their origin, focusing on natural, man-made, and human resources. If we are asked what are natural resources, then we should answer these are materials that exist naturally on earth without any human effort. They are formed through natural processes. For example, sunshine, air, water, soil, plants, animals, rivers, coal, mineral oil, and natural gas, etc. etc. They occur in solid, liquid, or gaseous states and may be metallic or non-metallic in form. Now let's have a look at the uses of natural resources. Natural resources are raw materials for many industries. For example, coal, mineral oil, and gas are energy sources. Bamboo becomes paper, cotton is used to make cloth, plants give us dyes, chemicals, and even synthetic cloth. Plants and animals provide food, medicines, wood, and many more items. What are man-made resources? These are materials created by humans using natural resources and technology. For example, processed goods like synthetic fabric and plastic, industrial products and inventions, construction materials, and machines and tools. All these are designed to make human life easier and more productive. Let's now talk about the role of human beings in resource development. Humans play a key role in transforming natural resources into useful forms. Because of their abilities, humans themselves are considered resources known as human resources. To make natural resources usable, we need skill, education, technology, desire, and innovation. Importance of human resources. Humans are the creator and developers of all resources. Even countries with limited natural wealth have seen great development due to strong human resource power. For example, Japan, Switzerland, Taiwan, Singapore, and South Korea. These nations show us that with the right focus on education and innovation, even resource poor countries can become highly developed. Let's now look at the classification of resources based on their physical structure or composition. Biotic and abiotic resources. First, let's see biotic resources. These are resources that have life or once had life. For example, plants, animals, fishes, crops, etc. etc. These resources are capable of reproduction, growth, and decay. Now, abiotic resources. These are non-living resources that do not show any life processes. For example, soil, rocks, water, air, minerals, coal, mineral oil, natural gas, etc. etc. Interestingly, coal, oil, and natural gas were formed from the decay of living things. But because they no longer show any sign of life, they are now classified as abiotic resources. Now let's understand the classification of natural resources based on their availability or durability. Renewable or inexhaustible resources. These are resources that can be generated naturally. They do not get permanently exhausted even with repeated use if used wisely. For example, sunshine, air, water, plants, animals, human beings, and crops. If we are asked why these are called renewable resources, then we can say these are called renewable because they replenish naturally. But even they must be used carefully. Some plant and animal species are becoming endangered or extinct due to overuse, environmental degradation, climate change, and human interference. This tells us that even renewable resources must be used responsibly. Non-renewable or exhaustible resources. These resources cannot be regenerated quickly once they are used up. They exist in limited quantities and will eventually run out. For example, coal, petroleum means mineral oil, natural gas, and minerals like copper, gold, limestone, iron, and silver. Once used, these resources may take millions of years to form again. That's why we need to ensure planned extraction and judicious use of non-renewable resources. Let's take a quick look at two major sources of energy, renewable energy and non-renewable energy. On the left, we see renewable energy. This includes sources like solar power and wind energy. They are clean, unlimited, and sustainable for future generations. On the right, we see non-renewable energy. This includes coal, petroleum, and natural gas. They produce energy but also cause pollution, and once used, they are gone forever. Renewable energy is the path to a greener future, while non-renewable sources remind us why conservation and transition are important. Resources can also be classified based on ownership, and here we look at three major types: individual resources, national resources, and international resources. Individual or personal resources are those owned by individuals. This includes land or property owned by a person, household items, and even personal attributes like education, skills, and good character. These resources help in our personal development and well being. On the other hand, we have national resources. These belong to a nation and are managed by government. They benefit all citizens, and examples include transport systems, rivers, forests, wildlife, educational institutions, public infrastructure like bridges and government buildings. All these are collectively known as national or public resources. Now let's understand international resources. These are resources that do not belong to any single nation but are meant for the benefit of the entire human race. Examples include oceans and seas along with their mineral and biotic resources, the atmosphere, and certain forest or biodiversity zones that lie beyond national borders like the Amazon rainforest. These resources are managed through international laws and agreements and supervised by global organizations such as United Nations. For comparison, we can look at examples. Kaziranga National Park is a national resource of India, while the Amazon rainforest is an international resource shared across countries and vital for the whole world. Let's now understand the classification of resources based on distribution. Resources can be either ubiquitous or localized. Ubiquitous resources are found everywhere on Earth. Examples include sunshine, air, and to a certain extent, water. These resources are uniformly distributed and easily available to everyone. On the other hand, we have localized resources. These are available only in specific places or regions. Examples include coal, petroleum, iron ore, uranium, and certain types of vegetation and crops. These resources are unevenly distributed and can become the economic or political strength of the regions that own them. Next, we move to a very important topic: conservation of resources, its meaning, needs, and methods. As human demands grow and natural resources shrink, it has become very important to understand what is conservation, why do we need to conserve our resources, and most importantly, how can we do it? Let's explore the answers to these questions in the upcoming slides. Natural resources are not distributed equally across the earth. Many resources are non-renewable and available in limited quantity. Due to rapid population growth and industrial development, their use is increasing fast. Developed countries like the USA, Japan, and Germany consume large amounts of resources, even though their populations are smaller. On the other hand, developing nations like India and China face immense pressure due to population explosion. So, what is resource conservation? Resource conservation means using natural resources wisely and efficiently without wastage so that we can continue to benefit from them for a long time. It does not mean stopping uses, but ensuring sustainable and careful use. For example, using mineral oil without wastage for long term benefit. Let's now understand the importance of conservation. It helps prevent the extinction of plants and animals. Next is it prevents environmental imbalance caused by overuse. And most importantly, it ensures sustainable development and the survival of future generations. Conservation applies to both renewable and non-renewable resources. Let us now understand why conservation is so necessary, especially due to the shortage of resources. The destruction of forests, which are renewable resources, leads to the decline of animal habitats and biodiversity loss. It also disturbs environmental balance. To address this, many plans and projects have been taken up globally to conserve rare and endangered species like the tiger, elephant, rhino, dolphin, and others. In Assam, many valuable plant species such as Sarpagandha, Salmogra, Kalmeg, Arjun, Ogoru, Sirota, Joyful, Satmul, and Hugloti are becoming extinct. Likewise, some endangered animals include the golden langur, hollow gibbon, wild buffalo, pygmy hog, river dolphin, white wood duck, hornbill, and the greater adjutant stork. The excessive use of mineral oil, coal, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides in agriculture has led to air pollution, water pollution, and soil pollution. Even fish, though a renewable resource, is being over-harvested. This leads to shortage and a reduction in fish variety in many regions around the world. And finally, to raise global awareness, the United Nations has declared 5th June every year as World Environment Day, encouraging people worldwide to protect our environment. Conservation is not just a local issue, it is a global priority. Let's have a look at the global conservation efforts. Various international organizations work tirelessly for the protection of natural resources and the environment. Key global organizations include IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, founded in 1948 under the United Nations. It was initiated by British biologist Julian Huxley, who was also founding Director General of UNESCO. The IUCN carries out research and actions focused on the conservation of global natural environment, including biodiversity and natural resources. Another notable organization is WWF, the Worldwide Fund for Nature, actively works in over 100 countries for wildlife protection and ecological conservation. WCMC, the World Conservation Monitoring Center, monitors biodiversity and supports global conservation policies. Now, let's look at conservation efforts in India and Assam. In India, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, or MOEFCC, is responsible for setting environmental laws and policies. Under this ministry, an autonomous institution named Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, or ICFRE, was founded in 1986. It focuses on forest conservation and research. Various non-government organizations like the Center for Science and Environment, in short CSE, Greenpeace India, and the Wildlife Trust of India are also working for conservation. In Assam, local bodies like the Assam Science Society and Aranyok are playing a key role in regional environmental protection and awareness. Together, these efforts show that conservation is a collective responsibility both globally and locally. To ensure the success of any resource conservation program, we must follow specific methods. Let us now look at a few important methods. First, we can say search for alternative resources. We must explore and develop alternative materials to reduce the pressure on overused resources. Examples include using synthetic fiber instead of cotton and using synthetic rubber instead of natural rubber. Additionally, to reduce our dependence on non-renewable sources like coal and petroleum, we must actively promote renewable energy sources such as solar energy, hydroelectric power, wind energy, and organic or bioenergy. By switching to these sustainable options, we can ensure long-term energy security and environmental protection. Next is recycling. Recycling plays a crucial role in conserving resources. It helps reduce the need for raw materials, especially those that are in limited supply. Items like old plastic bags, bottles, paper, and metal scraps can be reused for recycling. This process lowers the demand for new raw materials, helps reduce waste, and supports the conservation of natural resources. These simple yet effective steps are vital to protect our planet and preserve its resources for the future generations. Continuing with the methods for successful implementation of resource conservation, we now look at two more key strategies. First is innovation. Encouraging scientific research and innovation is very important. It helps in converting natural resources into useful and efficient products and reducing wastage during production processes. For example, promoting organic fertilizers helps avoid the harmful effects of chemical fertilizers on soil and environment. Next is waste control. We can conserve resources by controlling the generation of waste during the transformation of raw materials into finished products. Example, in woodworking, leftover wood can be reused in small scale industries, which reduces waste. In paper mills, leftover wood and bamboo pieces are used to produce organic or chemical products. This practice lowers pressure on natural resources and promotes sustainable use. Together, innovation and waste control play a key role in protecting our planet and ensuring long-term benefits from our resources. Now let us explore some additional methods that help ensure the success of resource conservation efforts. Expansion of knowledge and education. To manage the production and usage of resources effectively, educating people is crucial. Awareness must be spread so that unnecessary wastage of resources can be minimized. An informed population leads to more responsible use of resources. Execution of conservation related acts. Laws and policies play a key role in resource conservation. To be effective, this must be strictly enforced, transparent, and properly implemented. Strong legal action can prevent misuse and encourage responsible behavior regarding resource use. Next is proper assessment of resource reserve. For effective planning and long-term use, it's important to assess how much of a resource is available. Benefits of this include reducing unnecessary or wasteful use and encouraging exploration and development of alternative resources. Together, education, law enforcement, and resource assessment form the backbone of a sustainable and secure future. As we move forward, one of the most important steps in resource conservation is assessment of future requirement of resources. With the current rate of resource usage and the continuously growing population, it becomes essential to estimate future demands. Why is this important? Because it helps prevent unnecessary use and wastage of valuable resources. It encourages timely exploration and the adoption of alternative resources, and most importantly, it supports long-term planning aimed at sustainable development. By predicting our future needs today, we can build a more responsible and resource-efficient tomorrow. And with that, we come to the end of our chapter. Let's quickly recap what we have learned. First, we have learned about economic geography. Then, we explored the meaning, types, and classifications of resources, their importance, and how they impact our economic and environmental development. We also discussed the urgent need for conservation, including practical methods like recycling, innovation, education, and responsible usage. Remember, resources are limited, but our actions today can ensure their availability for tomorrow. So let's pledge to be responsible, aware, and sustainable in how we use the world's resources. Thank you for learning with us. Keep exploring, keep growing, and do not forget to subscribe our YouTube channel, Gyanar Batchora.